The great domed hall of the Exilari Intergalactic Academy buzzed with excitement as students from 20 different species took their seats, their eyes fixed on the glowing holoboard at the front. Today's lecture in Xenobiology and the Deathworlds was about one of the most feared and least understood planets in the galaxy Earth. Professor Jarn, a tall, four-eyed scholar from the Virexian system, floated to the center, his voice calm but serious. "Today, we speak of the world known as Terra or Earth," he announced, and a few students chuckled nervously. The hologram lit up, showing burning forests, wild storms, massive predators, and volcanic mountains. Classified as a Category 5 death world, Earth is a place of chaos. Gravity higher than most species can handle, air filled with toxins, unstable weather, and apex predators with no fear. As he continued describing Earth's dangers, laughter broke out among some of the students. "Who would be crazy enough to live there?" one said. "Only monsters could survive that kind of place," said another. Even the professor smiled. Indeed, no intelligent life should have evolved there. And yet, it did. But at the back of the room, one student wasn't laughing. Dressed in a dark academy uniform, Cadet Miles Wren sat still, his expression unreadable. He never spoke much in class, and no one knew his species. He was registered as Off-Worlder Class B, which raised no red flags. But now, hearing his home described like a horror tale, something shifted behind his eyes. His fingers tapped slowly against the desk. The others didn't notice. They kept mocking. "Humans must be born insane," someone whispered. "They don't even have scales or exo-armor." The professor added, "Some believe the creatures of Earth survive through rage and unpredictability, raw instinct." Miles kept his gaze low. He didn't argue. He didn't correct them. He had learned long ago that silence was sometimes stronger than truth. What they didn't know was that he wasn't just from Earth, he had survived it. Every storm, every scar, every test. And now, sitting among the brightest minds of the galaxy, he watched as they studied monsters, not knowing one was already in the room. Quiet. Listening. Waiting. The lesson was about to go much deeper than anyone expected. After the lecture on Earth, whispers followed Miles wherever he walked through the shining corridors of the academy. He had said nothing, but his silence during the Deathworld lesson had made some students uneasy. A few began to wonder where he was really from, and the curiosity slowly turned into suspicion. No one could explain how he moved so quietly, how his eyes scanned every room like a soldier, not a student. Some believed he was just a quiet species from the outer rim. Others weren't so sure. Then came the announcement of the Zeno survival simulation, a mandatory training exam where students would be dropped into a simulated Deathworld environment. Most groaned or panicked, especially those from low-gravity or high-tech homeworlds. The simulation chosen was brutal, Terra-class storm zone, based loosely on Earth's data. Professor Jarn smiled as he explained, "This will teach you fear and focus." Students would face unpredictable weather, sudden predator attacks, and limited oxygen. One group of rich cadets, especially an arrogant Arcanian named Revek, laughed at the challenge and turned to Miles. "You'll probably freeze in the first 10 minutes, Revek said loudly, drawing laughter. Miles just nodded once, no expression, and signed up. The day of the test arrived fast. Inside the simulation dome, the temperature dropped immediately. Thunder rolled overhead, and acid rain began to fall. Some students screamed, others ran blindly, slipping down rocks or hiding behind malfunctioning shields. But Miles didn't panic. He moved through the storm like he belonged there. His boots gripped the slippery stone with practiced steps. His breathing stayed calm. He used a broken panel to shield another cadet from lightning and guided her to safety with few words. Outside, instructors stared at the monitors. "Who is that cadet?" one asked, zooming in. "Look at his vitals, perfect under pressure." Revek, meanwhile, was curled in a ditch, crying and calling for extraction. When Miles completed the course in record time, instructors pulled up his record and paused. His species field was locked, but one red-tagged word appeared beneath it. The room fell silent. The realization hit hard. He hadn't just passed a simulation of Earth, he had moved through it like a memory. The others were fighting to survive. Miles had simply walked home. And now, the question wasn't where he was from, it was what else he was hiding. The academy was no longer calm after the simulation results were released. Students gathered in corners, whispering about the unknown cadet who had outperformed everyone without a scratch. His name was now on every tongue: Miles Wren, the quiet one, the mystery in the back row. Rumors flew faster than starships. Some said he was a genetically enhanced clone. Others believed he was an elite operative planted by the council. But deep inside the instructor's control room, one truth had been confirmed: Miles was human. The revelation didn't stay hidden for long. The moment his species tag, Homo sapiens, was mistakenly broadcast on the Academy's internal roster, the silence across campus was deafening. No one could believe it. A real human? A Deathworlder? In their classrooms? Walking among them? Rivek, still sore from his failure in the simulation, didn't waste time. He confronted Miles in the training yard, surrounded by curious eyes. "You lied to everyone," he shouted. "You're a monster, pretending to be one of us." But Miles didn't flinch. He looked Rivek in the eyes and said, "I didn't lie. You never asked." Rivek attacked without warning, driven by fear more than anger. The punch was fast, but Miles was faster. He moved with a smoothness that seemed impossible, stepping aside and gently guiding Rivek into the dirt with a simple motion. No harm, no show of strength. Just control. That, more than anything, frightened the crowd. Later that day, Professor Jarn called him in privately. He studied Miles with thoughtful eyes. "We studied your world. We thought we understood what a death world creates. But you're not savage, not wild. You're something else." Miles nodded once. "You think Earth made monsters. It didn't. It made survivors who learned when not to strike." The professor leaned back, silent. Outside, students avoided Miles in the halls, not out of hatred but confusion. He had broken every story they believed about humans. He wasn't violent, but calm. Not proud, but careful. They had expected a beast in human skin. Instead, they found discipline, focus, and a quiet strength none of them could match. The mask was gone now. Miles was unmasked, but the real mystery was only beginning. What did it mean when the galaxy's most feared species wasn't dangerous because of its rage, but because of its restraint? The days after Miles was revealed as human changed everything at the Academy. Some students avoided him entirely, walking the long way around just to escape a glance. Others watched him closely, as if expecting him to snap at any moment. Whispers filled the dining hall and training fields. "He could kill someone with one hand," one said. "They say humans train in gravity 3 times stronger than ours," said another. But Miles did nothing to feed their fear. He followed the same schedule, spoke only when spoken to, and treated everyone with quiet respect. Slowly, curiosity began to rise above fear. A few brave cadets approached him not with suspicion, but questions. "What's Earth really like?" a young insectoid asked. Miles didn't brag or exaggerate. He spoke simply. "It teaches you to think fast, act smart, and never waste energy." Then came the ethics class, where the topic was whether violence was ever justified. As students argued, many glanced at Miles, waiting. Finally, the instructor asked for his opinion. The room fell silent. Miles stood and spoke evenly. "Violence is never the goal. It's a tool. The question is, do you pick it up because you're scared? Or because there's no other choice left?" His words hit harder than any weapon. Even Professor Jarn, seated in the back, gave a small nod. During physical assessments, when his back was scanned, students saw the truth etched into his skin scar tissue from old wounds, bites, burns, and shrapnel. Not from war, but survival. One cadet whispered, "He's not a soldier, he's a product of his planet." Instead of being feared, Miles slowly earned something far rarer: respect. Those who mocked him before now listened when he spoke. Some even asked for training tips, which he shared without pride. His strength wasn't in showing power, It was in never needing to. The Academy had taught many theories, but Miles brought something they had never seen before: lived experience from the most dangerous place in the known galaxy. And with every calm step, every controlled breath, he shattered the old myth that humans were monsters. The real truth was more unsettling. They were survivors who had learned not just how to fight, but when not to. And that made them more powerful than anyone had imagined. Weeks turned into months, and the name Miles Wren was no longer whispered in fear, it was spoken with quiet respect. The Academy had changed. The same students who once laughed during lectures about Deathworlds now sat in silence when Earth was mentioned. They didn't think of monsters anymore. They thought of the quiet human who walked past danger like it was weather, who carried scars without shame and never raised his voice to prove his strength. Even Rivek, once arrogant and loud, now nodded politely when passing Miles in the corridor. The instructors, too, had shifted. Professor Jarn invited Miles to stand beside him during the next xenobiology lecture, this time not as a student but as someone who had lived what the others only studied. Miles didn't give a long speech. He simply showed a short clip of real Earth storms, real predators, and survival footage that silenced even the most hardened cadets. "This is where I was raised," he said. "We didn't grow strong to fight. We grew strong to survive what couldn't be stopped." After the lecture, students approached him not with fear but admiration. A reptilian cadet from a low-gravity world said, "I never respected humans before. I thought you were just wild. But now I think you're something else entirely." Miles gave a small smile, the kind he rarely showed. For the first time, he felt like he didn't have to hide what he was. Earth had made him strong, but the Academy had taught him something too: how others saw his people through fear and legend. And now, by simply existing, he had begun to change that view. Not by force, but by example. He didn't need to roar or fight to be heard. He only needed to walk forward, one step at a time, like every survivor does. In the final ceremony of the term, when the Academy raised the flags of all species present, they added one more dark blue with a small white sphere in the center. The flag of Earth. It flew not as a warning, but as a symbol of resilience. And somewhere deep in the galaxy, a lesson had taken root. The monsters from the Deathworld were never monsters at all, they were just human.